There is a decision you made, probably before you were even old enough to understand what a decision was, and you have been living inside it every single day since. It decided how much money flows to you. It decided what kind of opportunities you notice and which ones you walk right past. It decided whether you feel safe reaching for more, or whether more makes something in your chest tighten. You didn't write it down. Nobody read it back to you, but it has been running your bank account like a silent operating system. And in the next few minutes, you're going to find out exactly what that decision was and how to finally change it. Before we go further, I want to ask you for something small. If what I'm about to share resonates with you even a little, hit subscribe now, not later now, because the second half of this video contains the actual method, the specific words and steps that people use to rewrite this decision. And I don't want you to miss it because YouTube buried this video in your feed tomorrow. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's walk through this together. Here's something strange that most people never stop to notice. Two people can read the exact same book about abundance, say the exact same affirmations every morning for the exact same number of days, attend the exact same seminar on manifesting wealth, and one of them will see their income double within a year. The other will feel nothing shift at all. Same words, same effort, same hope in their heart when they started, but completely different results. Why? If affirmations worked the way most people teach them, as a kind of magic incantation you repeat until the universe caves in and hands you money, then everyone who said them would get rich. But that's not what happens. Some people say, "I am a magnet for wealth every day for years," and stay exactly where they are. So either the whole idea of consciousness creating your reality is false, or there's a layer beneath the affirmation that most people never touch. A layer that was set long before they ever picked up a book on prosperity. A layer that determines whether those words land as truth or bounce off you like rain on glass. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote something almost a century ago that still cuts through all the confusion around this. She said that man's affairs are always the exact reflection of his own state of consciousness. Not his effort, not his intelligence, not even his desire, his consciousness, his inner conviction about what is true for him, which means the affirmation was never the real work. The affirmation was just the surface. Something else, something much older and quieter, was doing the actual deciding. Here it is. You are not currently living according to your beliefs about money in the way most people assume. You are living according to a decision, a specific, dated, identifiable decision about who you are, how much you are allowed to receive, and what is realistically possible for someone like you. Read that again, because it changes everything. A belief feels abstract, floating, hard to locate. I believe money is hard to come by. Okay, where did that come from? You can't quite point to it. It just feels true, like gravity. But a decision is different. A decision was made at a moment, in a room, in a specific feeling. Usually before you had the language or the awareness to question it. Maybe it was the night you watched a parent stare at unpaid bills with a face you'd never seen before, and some part of you, young, absorbent, trying to make sense of the world, silently concluded, money is scarce, and wanting too much of it is dangerous. Maybe it was the moment someone you admired told you that people like you don't get opportunities like that, and you didn't argue. You just quietly filed it away as fact. Maybe it wasn't even dramatic. Maybe it was simply years of watching the adults around you treat wealth as something that happens to other people, in other families, in other lives. And you absorbed that as the shape of your own ceiling, long before you ever tried to rise past it. That moment became a decision, and the decision became a lens. And every single day since, your mind has been unconsciously filtering reality through that lens, noticing the evidence that confirms it, and completely missing the evidence that contradicts it. This is the part almost nobody tells you. Your subconscious mind does not care whether the decision is true. It only cares whether it's familiar, and it will fight, quietly and relentlessly, to keep your outer life matching that old internal verdict, even if that verdict is now costing you the very abundance you say you want. So when you say an affirmation like, "I am open to receive unlimited wealth," and nothing changes, it's not because the affirmation failed. It's because somewhere underneath it, a much older decision is still standing there, arms crossed, whispering, "That's not who we are." So if a decision, not a wish, not a goal, not a vision board, is what actually shapes your financial reality, the question becomes far more personal than, "How do I attract more money?" The real question is, what did you decide and when, and can you actually find it? Because here's the part that should give you hope instead of dread. A decision, unlike a fixed truth, can be revisited. It can be examined. It can be, deliberately, consciously, replaced with a new one, but only if you first see it clearly enough to stop mistaking it for reality itself. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Marissa, because her story shows this principle in a way that no explanation alone ever could. Marissa worked in administration for over a decade. Competent, reliable, well-liked, and permanently stuck. Every year she watched colleagues with less experience get promoted past her. Every year she told herself the same story. The timing isn't right. The economy is tough. There's no room for someone like me to rise higher. She discovered Florence Scovel Shinn's writing almost by accident, during a period where she felt so financially stagnant that she was willing to try anything. She began saying the affirmations. "Money comes to me freely, easily, and continuously." She said it in the mirror. She said it in traffic. She said it before bed. And for months, nothing moved. She almost gave up entirely, convinced that this was simply more evidence that people like her didn't get to have financial breakthroughs. That thought itself, she would later realize, was the whole problem hiding in plain sight. But something in Shinn's writing kept pulling her back. A specific idea that most people skim right past. Shinn taught that before you can truly change your outer conditions, you have to find the exact belief that is holding the old condition in place, because until that belief is exposed, no amount of positive words can override it. So, Marissa did something different. Instead of repeating a new affirmation and hoping it would eventually overpower the old programming, she sat down and asked herself a much harder question. What did I decide about money? And when did I decide it? She sat with that question for a long time. And slowly, a memory surfaced that she hadn't thought about in years. She was 9 years old. Her mother had just been turned down for a raise she desperately needed. And Marissa remembered the exact words her mother said, almost to herself, staring out the kitchen window. "People like us just don't get ahead. We work hard and we stay where we are. That's just how it is for people like us." Marissa hadn't consciously remembered those words in over 20 years, but in that moment of quiet questioning, she realized she had been living inside that sentence her entire adult life. Every time an opportunity for advancement appeared, some part of her had quietly agreed with her 9-year-old self. People like us don't get ahead. She hadn't been failing to manifest wealth. She had been successfully manifesting a decision she made before she even understood what a decision was. This is the moment everything shifted for her. Not because she found a magic phrase, but because she finally saw the actual architecture underneath her financial life. The affirmations hadn't been working because they were being said on top of an unexamined foundation. It was like painting a beautiful new color over a wall that was still cracked underneath. So she did something Shinn describes clearly in her work. She didn't just try to think positive. She consciously, deliberately, made a new decision. And she anchored it the same way the old one had been anchored, with feeling, not just words. She began telling herself, quietly and repeatedly, "I come from people who are learning to receive. I am allowed to rise higher than anyone before me. My worth was never determined by what happened in that kitchen." Within a few months, an internal position opened up that she wouldn't normally have even applied for. She would have talked herself out of it before. This time, something in her had shifted enough that she applied anyway. She got it. It came with a substantial increase in pay. But more importantly, She said the fear that used to whisper people like us don't get ahead had gone quiet in a way it never had before. Even during all those months of saying affirmations in the mirror, the money changed. But what changed first was the decision underneath it. Here is the second layer of this, and it's the part that ties everything together. The reason Marissa's affirmations didn't work for months isn't because affirmations don't work. It's because an affirmation is a new decision trying to override an old decision, and old decisions are protected. They're protected by familiarity, by emotional charge, by years of quiet confirmation. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the subconscious is simply a faithful servant that carries out whatever the conscious mind has impressed upon it as true. It doesn't judge, it doesn't reason, it simply executes. Which means it will just as faithfully execute a limiting decision made when you were 9 years old, as it will execute a deliberate, adult, chosen belief in abundance. It has no preference. It only responds to what has been impressed upon it with feeling and repetition. This is why simply wanting more money rarely works. Wanting operates on the surface. Deciding operates at the root. And this is the real, quiet reason some people seem to attract wealth so effortlessly, while others struggle no matter how hard they work. It was never really about effort at all. It was about which decision, made long ago, was still quietly running in the background. Deciding what felt possible before the person even had a chance to try. So how do you actually find your decision, and how do you begin to replace it? Here is what this looks like in practice. First, trace the moment. Sit quietly and ask yourself honestly, when did I first learn what money does in a life like mine? Don't force an answer. Let a memory surface. A room, a sentence, a feeling. It's often smaller and older than you expect. Second, name it exactly. Not vaguely, like, I have money issues. Specifically like Marissa's. People like us don't get ahead. Write the sentence down exactly as it lives in you. You cannot replace what you refuse to clearly see. Third, question its authority. Ask yourself, is this actually true? Or was it simply true for the person who said it, in the moment they said it? A decision made by a frightened, tired adult decades ago is not a law of the universe. It was a conclusion drawn from limited evidence at a painful moment. It never had to become your permanent inheritance. Fourth, make a new decision on purpose, with feeling, not just words. This is where most people stop too early, saying a nice sentence with no emotional weight behind it. Instead, speak your new decision as Shinn taught, with the calm certainty of someone stating a fact, not someone begging for a miracle. Something like, I decide, from this moment, that I am someone who receives easily and rises without apology. Say it until it feels less like a wish and more like a memory of something you already know. Fifth, watch for the evidence and let yourself see it. Once a new decision is in place, your mind will start noticing what it was previously filtering out. The unexpected opportunity, the casual comment that opens a door, the moment of courage that wasn't there before. Don't dismiss these as coincidence. They are the visible edge of an invisible shift. This is slow, honest work, but it is real work, not decoration on top of an unexamined life, but a genuine change at the root. You were never simply living according to your beliefs about money. You were living according to a decision. One made in a moment you may not even consciously remember, by a version of you who didn't yet have the power to question it. That decision has been shaping what you notice, what you attempt, and what you allow yourself to receive, for longer than you realized. But a decision is not a life sentence. It was made once. It can be examined once, honestly. And it can be replaced, deliberately, consciously, with feeling, by the person you are now, who knows more than that frightened or limited version of you ever could. Your financial reality did not begin with the universe deciding you deserved less. It began with a decision. And decisions, unlike fate, can always be made again. If this reached something in you, don't let it end here. Take 5 quiet minutes today and actually ask yourself the question from this video. What did I decide, and when? Write down whatever memory surfaces, even if it feels small or strange. That single act of honesty is often where the real shift begins. And if you want more of this kind of work, the kind that goes underneath the surface of manifestation and into the actual architecture of your inner world, subscribe now, like this video, so it reaches someone else who needs to hear it today, and leave a comment below telling me the moment you think your own decision was made. I read everyone, and I promise you're not the only one who's about to recognize themselves in this. If you're ready to go even deeper, there's another video I made that walks through exactly how Florence Scovel Shinn taught people to speak the word of prosperity out loud. The precise practice that turns a quiet inner decision into a spoken law your whole life begins to organize itself around. Click it now, and let's keep going together.